Ken, a question for you. As the economy comes back, how much of a threat is inflation, and should company owners be taking inflation into account when considering the timing of pursuing a recapitalization or a selling of their companies?
Wow, that's a real crystal ball question, Steve. I wished I could help out with it. If you listen to the Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke, if you don't eat or drive cars, which are transitory components of the inflation will remain benign. But to the rest of us, there is this worry that commodity prices, food prices, input prices are on the rise, which will eventually make their way into the pricing structures. And the impact that has on the M&A transaction is back to my earlier comment. Interest rates track inflation in a very, very meaningful way. And so if inflation starts to move their way up, bond investors will demand a higher coupon on their interest rates. So that will lessen the worth of a transaction, if you will, because those cap rates are going to go higher.
I have one final question, and then we'll take questions from the audience. One thing we haven't covered yet is preparing a company to be sold to the next generation of your family. Are there any new insights that you can share with people in the room as to the way to go about getting that done with as few complications as possible?
Start early. My daughter is running our Windermere company. She's the largest shareholder. She reminded me one day that I think in 6th grade I was pushing the CFA credentials on her and preparing her for the future. So if you want family involvement, start early, do your legwork, and enjoy the process of a legacy. And if that's truly the direction you want to go, get involved, get the whole family involved, and let them grow up with the business.
I agree with Ken. I think planning early, and early may mean years and maybe decades in advance of an intergenerational transfer. The other interesting thing that is a dynamic with families is when you have adult children who are in the business and some who are not. Treating them fairly doesn't always mean treating them equally, but some thought has to go into that process before you can actually have a transaction that's successful both for the business and the family.
Jim?
I used to kind of brag that mergers and acquisitions transactions are the most complex things that you can do in the world. That's not true. Family transitions of businesses are probably the most complex thing that you can do because of the family dynamics, the politics, the different interests involved, and the preparation that has to go into preparing somebody to take over your business. And so having that long-term plan, going through those issues and getting them all on the table and confronting them is important. We actually have a separate group in Schenck that works with companies on that. It really is a different involved process from a third-party sale or a management buyout, and it working with your lawyer and your financial advisor, but really you're creating the vision for the company going forward much more than you are even if you're selling it to a third party.
With that, we'll take some questions from the audience. Just raise your hand, and you have any questions for our panelists? I guess not. I have one last question for you, Ken. Let's walk it all the way forward now. A company owner has sold his or her company through one of the different scenarios we've discussed today, and has that once-in-a-lifetime moment where there's liquidity, a lifetime's worth of liquidity. Maybe all of you, could you share some insight as to how you help your clients negotiate what they do next with that legacy or with that bounty, I guess?
Right. Well, that again is a really complex question.
I'm a complex guy, Ken.
And I think the next panel will help you on as well, Steve. But from a wealth management perspective, as I said earlier, the movement from owning or running a company is really an easy transition over to active stewardship and managing your money if you think of the same concept of a management team. So focus yourself on putting a team together of your estate planner, your corporate attorney, your tax advisor, and your financial advisor. They're all trusted individuals. You've brought them into your circle. They all have unique skills and opportunities to offer you the unbiased insights into how the planning works. When we get involved, we spend a lot of time with the family. We spend a lot of time on developing the investment policies and the hard stuff as to what is likely to happen with the monies going forward on a fully diversified portfolio. But the softer stuff is to help people think through what they want to do with their money. We work with the Charles Schwab Company as the custodian, and you all see those ads of, come on, be realistic out there. I mean, I don't want to have a vineyard or a yacht. So our big challenge is to set the expectations of what this pool of money is capable of doing and how people want to parcel it out for their own lives, for the next intergenerational, reinvesting back into other businesses or charity. And there's a lot of charitable people today that are taking the active role, not waiting till they've passed on, but they take that active role of getting involved in funding African or wells and water wells in Africa or whatever. And so we do a lot of the pre-checks on some of the legacy planning as well.
Scott, any thoughts?
Steve, I would just say that really the question of what to do with the legacy starts with the tax and estate planning before the transaction even takes place. That drives the amount of the legacy in the form that it's going to take. And then I think it is about goal setting. The financial advisor has to figure out what the person's goals are so they can decide asset allocation strategies.
Jim, the last word?
I agree with all that's been said. It is a planning thing, and knowing where you're going to end up at the end of the transaction is very important. You get a likely value range that you're going to be in, being real clear on what the net number is and what that can do for you is very important. You're giving up an income and a stream that you've been used to, and really being aware of the consequences of that and what you're going to be able to do over the next period of years is just hugely important.
How about a hand for our panelists this morning?